What is going on, YouTube people? NeoCards and Comics here. Well, PSA kicked the old door in and said, don't forget about us. They came out today and officially announced the East Coast expansion. This has been rumored for a very long time, but they have made it official. Instagram official, and a little post on their website. They have leased 130,000 square foot facility in New Jersey, Harbor, Jersey City, I believe, Harbor something or other, directly across the water from New York City. This is basically in New York City. It's in New Jersey, but it's essentially in New York City. I'm sure some New York City people will be mad I said that, but is what it is. It's right there in New York City. 130,000 square foot. This will be up and running according to Collectors Universe in 2023. It will be fully operational. It will be a fully operational Death Star in 2023. Just in time for the backlog to be cleared. All kidding aside, you know, this is kind of, we all knew that this was happening. This has been talked about forever. And as we continue to move throughout this year and into the future, as the hobby continues to sort itself out, I think this is not great news for a lot of the smaller grading companies, to be honest. I know a lot of people don't like PSA, but they still command the most ROI, and now they are going to have crazy economies of scale and the ability to ramp up. I know Dakota and I, specifically Sports Cards Anonymous, have gone round and round about this. He doesn't understand why they would price themselves super cheap when they command such a premium on the secondary market. And my point has always been, you don't build all this capacity to not fill that capacity. And to fill that capacity, you are going to need to price things correctly. Nat Turner has talked about a lot in the past, wanting to get cheaper submissions back. Guess what? They're gonna be coming. It might still be 6 months to a year, maybe a year plus, before we get the super, super cheap stuff back. But don't forget, PSA ran a very successful business model for a long time with sub $10 pricing for bulk. I don't see why they would not go back. Maybe it doesn't get sub $10 again, but I think we 100% see $10 bulk pricing for grading. 100%. It might have to go through a group submitter. There might be hoops that you have to jump through. I don't know, but there will 100% be, I will stake it right now, there will 100% be a $10 submission level again at some point in time, probably by the middle of 2023, maybe sooner. You don't put all this money into expansion, building out all these facilities, hiring graders, training staff, this, that, and the other thing, to have those people just sit and not have orders coming through the door. They are grading just out of California right now. I think they set a new record the other day, 200 and some thousand cards a week, I believe is the number right now. That is absolutely insane. That facility may not even be 100% capacity yet in regards to output. And now you're talking about adding another massive facility in, I'm just going to say, it's Jersey City. I'm just going to say New York City, East Coast. That one will be great for people wanting to drop off. The article that they posted over at their blog also talks about this being an opportunity to poach talent. To have an office in, basically right outside New York City, to be able to get East Coast talent, essentially, probably mostly for upper management, but also, potentially graders, whatever. It opens up that door as well. And like I said, it opens up the possibilities for a lot of people right outside New York City. That's a lot of people that could drop off in person. So could be a whole other host of group submitters. A lot of people being able to just walk their cards in to a PSA office on the East Coast. You have a national in Atlantic City every few years. That could potentially be a big deal. All sorts of ways they could leverage this. But overall, in the long term, this is good. If you are a collector, you should be happy. You are going to be able to grade cards again with PSA very cheaply. If you are a non-PSA grading company, you will probably continue to exist. I don't think this is going to be like a monopoly where it's just PSA. There is definitely a spot for some other grading companies. SGC will 100% continue to be around. They're not going anywhere. BGS, I continue to be perplexed by exactly what BGS is doing. I'm sure they will survive in some way, shape, and form. And CSG will survive just because they have the financial backing to weather a lot of storms. You know, even if they're not the biggest grading company in the world, they have the eBay authentication business to bring revenue in. Maybe they end up partnering with Fanatics or something later on down the line. Who knows? But they need to get the slab reworked, or the label at minimum. The slab itself is pretty solid, but they need to get that label changed up and do some other things. But you know, I still don't consider them a major player on the grading landscape. They don't really make a lot of sense for pretty much anything right now, card wise, except the ultra low end stuff at their $8 subs. But to that point, is someone really going to send, you know, a cheap low end card to CSG if PSA has $10 subs when you know it's going to sell for way more in a PSA slab? I get some people will just not use PSA because it's PSA, and I 100% respect that. That's your choice. You do you. But a lot of people are going to use PSA for set registry stuff, legacy stuff, and as of recording, they still command the biggest premium on the secondary market. I think this is really bad news for the really small guys, the pop-up grading companies, and, you know, people like HGA, stuff like that. I think this is potentially really bad news for them, because PSA is going to continue to price lower as they clear capacity. And then are those other companies, do they have the economies of scale? Do they have a business model that can sustain not charging $20 or $30 a card to grade? You got to remember, a lot of these companies, and once again, I'm talking more about the newer ones, not so much like an SGC, a Beckett, or a CSG, but a lot of the pop-up ones build a business model on charging $20 to $30 a piece to have a card graded. All of a sudden, if PSA undercuts that by a lot, do those companies have a business model that can sustain not getting as many cards in and also having to grade them for significantly cheaper? Because demand for those companies' services is going to dry up. Even if you don't want to send the PSA, this is going to have a trickle-down effect across the board. As PSA gets cheaper, it is going to cause demand to shift to PSA. That is going to cause the other companies to have less demand. How are they going to increase demand for their services? They will also lower prices to the point that they can, that still makes sense, to try to get cards to flow into their inbox to be able to grade. That, I think, is what pulls the companies from the fly-by-nights. You know, it's not so much, there's always going to be this staunch people that never want to use PSA. You know, maybe they're not going to SGC, they're trying HGA or all these other three-letter acronyms that are floating around out there. But all of a sudden, if SGC gets much more affordable, if BGS gets much more affordable, if CSG shakes the snow globe and gets things fixed up a little bit, and they get, you know, cheaper, faster, better, or whatever, now does it still make sense to use an HGA? Does it still make sense to use pop-up grading company, insert three-letter acronym here, when you could grade with SGC for $5 or $10 a card, or Beckett for a reasonable price, or CSG with subgrades and a new label for a very reasonable price, even if you hate PSA? And this is, you know, essentially for the people that just hate PSA, because as PSA gets cheaper, I mean, whether you like it or not, a large section of people in it right now that are grading to resale. And we all know what that means. Grading is always a math equation. As PSA gets cheaper and cheaper to grade with, they're still probably going to be the highest priced on the secondary market, which means anyone grading to sell is still going to use them. So I don't see that changing. PSA is still going to be the dominant force and is probably going to really hurt some of the small grading companies out there. I think there's still a spot for the other ones. I think you're looking at a 4-horse race by the end of 2023. I think it's PSA, I think it's Beckett, I think it's SGC, and I think it's CSG. Once again, where they all shake out, I don't know. But I think that's what you're looking at. I think PSA is going to be the clear-cut number one. I think it's going to be a battle for number two between SGC and BGS for now, with CSG trying to sneak in there. And then, you know, maybe it'll take a Fanatics push to get them over, you know, to close the gap on number 2. Maybe they do something with, you know, the eventual speculation is that you'll be able to grade directly with CSG while your raw cards are there through the eBay authentication program. I could see people doing something like that if it's priced very cheaply. You know, maybe you just have them grade it and almost use it like a raw card review and then get it. And if it's a real big card and you want to send it to PSA, you could then crack it or have a general idea what you think it's going to go for. That could potentially give CSG a boost. To me, that's their best angle to make inroads, is having a grading option available when the card ships there for authentication anyway. We'll see how this all shakes out, but PSA East Coast facility is coming. And once again, I think in the long run, this is going to mean extremely affordable grading. They are going to price to fill slots. And guess what? They are going to have a lot of slots to fill. So I think $10 grading is 100% on the table in the near future. When I say near future, like a year. And maybe even cheaper, you know, specials or set registry stuff could potentially be even cheaper. Time will tell. Like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't. And when you are watching this, I will be packing up and getting ready to head out to Atlanta. So check me out. Track me down. It's Culture Collision Show. And stop by and say hello if you're going to be in attendance. And we will catch you guys and girls on the next one. Peace.